Okay, it looks like we're going to get started. Thank you for attending our webinar today on meeting your customers' demand for online self-service. My name is Rod Hodgman. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at Avoca, and delivering this webinar today with me is Jeff Kalicki, who's a Strategic Account Manager for Avoca as well. And so we're going to get started. If you have any questions, you can put them into the questions pod down in the bottom, and we'll answer those questions as we go through the presentation. The flow of the presentation is going to be that I'm going to deliver quickly about 8 or 10 slides, and then we're going to move into 2 customer demos. So let's get started. I want to start first by looking at this Gartner Top 10 CIO Business Priorities for 2012 to put a little bit of this presentation into a business perspective. Recently, Gartner announced these top CIO business priorities, and it's interesting to look at the way that CIOs are being driven today to achieve business results, right? We're looking at increasing growth, attracting and retaining new customers, reducing costs, delivering better operational results, and improving operational efficiency. And in that report, it was also interesting to note that Mark McDonald, one of their chief analysts, was quoted as saying, in the face of continued economic uncertainty, business strategies call for a combination of growth and operational efficiency. And he then went on to say, effective leaders see customers and the customer experience as key factors in reconciling these potentially conflicting goals. And that's why I wanted to start with this particular perspective, is because focusing on customer self-service and helping your customers move interactions online is going to deliver on many of these key CIO business priorities. And if you'd like to learn more about that, you can look at the bottom of this slide here, and you'll see that URL. That's actually, if you just go to our blog, if you don't want to copy that URL, you'll be able to go to a really great blog and get a white paper that we wrote on this topic as well. All right, so let's just start on the premise. I want to give everybody 2 quick slides to get everybody on the same page. So customers are moving to online self-service. The move to mobile devices and easy-to-use mobile applications combined with the widespread use of social networks is rapidly changing customer expectations and preferences. And all demographic research points out this fact that customers increasingly are preferring online self-service over using your call center, visiting your branch office, downloading, filling in, and emailing or faxing back your PDF form. And so there's this continued move of our customers to be able to do everything and anything online and from any device. The good news is that this move will significantly reduce your operating costs. Our first case study today, we look at a customer that wanted to use online self-service to eliminate or reduce calls off of the call center. Today they handled 900,000 calls to help their customers distribute or roll over their 401k or other retirement funds. The average cost for these calls is about $25. This means if they only offload 25% of these calls, they'll save $5.6 million a year, and if they're able to deflect all of them to the online channel, they'll be able to save $22.5 million a year. So you can see that the savings are really dramatic and contribute into the CIO's objectives. All right, so let's look at how customer self-service and what that experience looks like in the retail industry. And in this industry, they've nearly perfected it. We've all had the experience where we've gone online to purchase a book, a movie, a CD, or make travel arrangements. It's a seamless, end-to-end, fast, easy online experience in which you can interact and transact online. So you start the process by going out and searching for products that you're interested in. That's the domain of the digital marketing system that's going to give you personalized and relevant selections to pick from. You make that selection, you move over to the e-commerce system where you're going to input your billing information, select the number of units that you want shipped, provide your credit card information, and hit the submit button, and you've placed your order. And then later, if there's an issue with the product or you need product support, you'll come back and get the support or service that you need through the customer services system. So this entire process is automated, seamless, digital, works on any device, and is really the state of the art that all industries want to strive for. However, in organizations such as insurance, banking, government, education, healthcare, and many other industries, in fact, I would argue most industries, these organizations conduct business through transactions that don't fit the shopping cart model. Like all organizations, their websites automate the discovery process, but whenever a customer wants to apply, order, register, claim, or transact in any way, they're directed to your branch office, your call center, or that PDF form that has to be downloaded, filled in, and mailed back. This model delivers the most costly and increasing alienating experience to more and more customers. Let's look a little bit more deeply at why it's time to look at a new approach. On this slide, we just want to recognize that at the point at which the organization and the individual, their prospects, their customers, their employees, or their suppliers want to conduct or transact business, there's a lot at stake. For the individual, they want to conduct really important or high-stake transactions, such as getting a mortgage, acquiring health insurance, applying for a grant, providing patient information, or performing an inspection or an audit. These are all mission-critical, high-impact transactions that your customers or partners want to conduct with you. For the organization, the customer experience, they want the customer experience the customer experience will positively or negatively will impact the brand of the organization. And that means that the reputation is at stake, the brand image, the customer satisfaction metrics, those are all at risk, as well as the organization's ability to comply with internal policies or external regulations, and many other key business metrics. And I brought back in the Gartner priorities to show you that these high-stake customer transactions directly impact the CIO's top growth priorities of growth, cost reduction, profitability, and other key metrics. So let's examine the point of impact and the expectations that are set here. So as these high-stake transactions take place, they lead to really high expectations for both the individual and the organization. At this point of impact, where information is going to flow between the two parties, whether that information is digital or on paper or over the phone, the individual wants the experience to be convenient, fast, easy, reliable, worthwhile, secure, and above all, today, online and available on any device. The organization, on the other hand, wants the experience to be differentiating, low cost, efficient, easy to modify so they can change as customer requirements change over time, secure, standards-based, and available to the customer on whatever device the customer is currently using. In other words, they want an agile system. Now let's not kid ourselves. The point of impact is a very complex environment that requires a complete situational awareness. By that I mean device awareness, the ability to deliver an optimized experience for each and every device type, application awareness. These kinds of applications may require payments, signatures, attachments. They're certainly going to require data validation to get clean information into our back-end systems, and many other key features that support the process and make it fast, easy, and compelling to move these transactions online. The problem has been the lack of focus on solving this problem. The small point solutions, such as electronics forms and small custom web applications, can't handle the enterprise requirements. And at the other end of the spectrum, the ERP or CRM-based custom application development tasks are extremely costly, risky, and slow to deploy, and difficult and expensive to maintain. What we need is a platform specifically designed to address these issues. And that's why I want to introduce you to Avoca Smartphone Factory. Smartphone Factory is a proven platform that makes it convenient and easy for your customers to conduct business with you using the device of their choice. It also allows the organization to quickly and affordably deliver these experiences while still giving IT the control, scalability, security, and reliability they need. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand this over to Jeff, and Jeff's going to deliver 2 case studies for us that are going to walk us through the 401k distribution and retirement rollover that I spoke to earlier, and then to an insurance application.
Okay, thanks, Rod. So let me swap over. You'll need to give me presenter. And I'll show my screen. And so we are going to look at a couple of use cases, as Rod said, but before we do, I wanted to have a real quick overview of the Smartphone Factory platform, right? And so I'm going to pull up this diagram. Really, if we think about Avoca Smartphone Factory, it's an enterprise data collection application platform. And so what that means at a high level is it enables organizations to provide online self-service, making it convenient and easy for your customers to do business with you. It also allows for mobile data collection. So organizations can replace paper and clipboards with tablets, and have intelligent data capture out into the field, right? So if we look at this diagram, we can see how Smart Form Factory is deployed. Once in place, it's going to allow the organization to rapidly transform any of these form-based transactions into intelligent data collection applications. And as Rod said, run on any device, right? So if we kind of drill into this diagram a little bit, there's three main areas that I want to kind of focus on, right? So the bottom, if we look at the bottom of this diagram, we'll see the form designer over on the left and Smart Form Composer. So that is one aspect of the platform, is the what we call Smart Form Composer. And this is where you can actually go in and build these data collection applications. And this makes it easy to build, deploy, and manage the entire data collection application. And they do that in a secure, scalable, and reliable, fashion. Coming out of that, I'm going to have HTML5 for mobile devices, HTML5 for desktop, PDF, document of record PDF. So there's a lot of outputs from that one single design. And then I also want to point out, because it's really important to note, is that form designer does not have to be a programmer, right? It is not geared towards the programmer. Now, we understand there's sometimes you're going to have some heavy lifting that you're going to want to do in an application, and we certainly allow that, and we segregate those roles out. But that Smart Form Composer is a key part of delivery for that platform, and speaks to what Rod was saying before in the slides. It's going to give you that agility, right? So you're going to be able to push the person who's closer to the business to be able to make these changes and put intelligence into the data collection application that either the user or the field users are going to be able to use. So if we move up the diagram, we see Smart Form Manager. This really acts as an intelligent hub, and it manages all aspects of the customer transactions, right? So whether the submissions are coming back in and what's going to happen to them, or also the managing of the different forms that are being produced by Composer. It's going to manage versions of those and make sure that the right deployment schedule is pushed out for use for the customers when you're changing what template came in. And it, so just the entire life cycle of transactions is going to be managed inside a Smart Form Manager. It is truly the heart of the system, and there's just so much there. We see a lot of people trying to solve, some of the problems and build, mobile forms or online forms, and they do a one-off, and they just realize the magnitude of effort that has to go in to manage the full life cycle of transaction. And, that's what Smart Form Manager is all about, and that's why it's been best in breed for many years in the marketplace. And then if we move up to the top part of the diagram, really we're talking about user experience here, and there's a multitude of ways that we can do that. And what we mean by that is how is the customer or the field user going to interact with the data collection application. So for this, we can use the Boca self-service portal. We can integrate it into an existing website or portal, and we can even deliver this to smartphones and tablets, or mobile devices. And then with the field worker, we can actually deliver it to a native application that is, able to go completely offline, right? So when we talk about Smart Form Factory, that's it. That's a quick overview of it. So let's take a look at the use cases now.
Hey, Jeff, as you're shifting over, I just want to say I saw somebody had their hand up. If you have any questions or issues that you want to make us aware of, just type them into the chat box, and we'll be able to see them and respond to you. Thanks.
Okay, great. All right, so the first case that we're going to look at, we've got Finance Corporation. It's a U.S. investment management company focused on retirement products, as Rod said. The main, so they're actually looking at for many of their products, but what we're going to focus on here is the 401k redistribution. That's a high volume call. In there, their call centers today take 900,000 calls. Each call is $25, as Rod kind of said. So there's a lot at stake here by solving this problem, right? And there's actually a lot more to it, and we'll see it as we get in there. It's some other things that they could employ and do to drive the right customer behavior. So, paper doesn't allow for cross-sell, doesn't allow to drive the right behaviors that we want out of our user, and it also leaves a lot to be desired for user experience and a lot of room for errors, right? So those are some of the problems. The solution, obviously, is the Smart Form Factory, building a guided data collection application that can be delivered online or mobilely, provide the experience that users are going to need to be able to get people off of the call center and get some call savings, but we'll also see some areas where they can drive, higher revenue as well. And we can see that through cross-sell and direction on that. So with that, let's jump into the demo. So what we're going to do here is let me launch over to the Finance Core portal. So here we have a the Finance Corporation portal. So this is actually a customer self-service portal that was provided with the Book Small Form Factory solution. And so what we're going to do, and one of the things that you have to have when you implement online self-service, you really kind of have to, before you even get to the solution, you kind of have to understand the customer's issues and what they're trying to do, and then focus on simplicity, right? So to keep that in mind, in general, any individual customer's use of web self-service is going to be infrequent, right? So you don't want to provide something that's very complex, a complex system that they have to learn, because they don't want to learn that, right? They just want to get the thing they need done and get on about their business. So let's look at how they did this inside that portal. So one of the first things they had to do is obviously provide access to outside users. So built into the portal is the ability to self-register. I forgot my password. All the things that are needed from that. So I've already got a login here, so I'll go ahead and log in to the application. And the first thing you'll notice when we're presented with the options here is it's actually very simple and straightforward to what I'm going to be doing as a customer, right? So I've got forms. How do I go find forms that I want to work with? The task list, these are going to be things that I might park and save. It could also be the organization, as it kicks off workflows, may have additional forms or other things they need me to do, and that could be used there. And then finally, the history, everything that I've done on the portal, what's the status of it? Maybe I need a copy for my records 2 months later. Now I can do that without picking up the phone and going to the call center and asking for it. So it's real straightforward, directly to what I want. So that simple design that we're talking about, right? So make it simple for people to do, and then make it easy for them to do it as well. So when we click forms, we can see it's, here's a list of forms. We see the search right at the top. I can have advanced search options where I could basically choose different things to search on. Actually, there's a couple of other ways that the Smart Form Factory allows you to do it. You could do it based on question base and things like that. So there is a lot of different ways that we can implement that. In this case, it's pretty straightforward. I could come in and say, well, I'm searching for my 401k, search for that, and any form that's going to be associated with that is going to show up in my search list. I get a brief description. I can actually mouse over it and see a little bit more description about it. And now I've kind of determined that, yeah, that's what I want. I want to do a retirement distribution. I have retired, from my job, so I can click open. And the first thing that Smart Form Manager is going to do for us here is actually display a landing page as opposed to just taking them straight to a form. And what this is going to allow us to do is a couple of things. One, give us more information about it. So maybe there's qualifications and regulations around who could do it. I've got cross-sell branding options that I can provide right at the right-hand side. And this is also where I can embed metadata about the form and about the data collection application that Yahoo and Google and things like that, if this is a public-facing form, can land them directly here, right? So it can be used for that landing spot as well. So in this case, I see it's the form I want. I go ahead and open it up. And now what we're going to do is actually render the application that was built with that Smart Form Composer. So we can see, a very intuitive form that fits right in with the portal, so the color schemes all look good, it all looks seamless. And one of the first things I notice as a user is it's personalized for me, right? I can see it right up there that this is a retirement distribution request for Jeff Glicki. That knew this because I've logged into the portal, so there's a pre-fill capability inside of Smart Form Manager to be able to pre-fill information, right? So any information that's back in the enterprise, I can now go get and display that into my forms or use it in my business rules, because maybe depending on who it is, maybe I want to drive a different image to cross-sell, right? So starting to make the forms not only give the information I want to be able to deliver to the back end, but drive the behaviors I want and maybe even cross-sell and upsell and get going. So let's take a look at what they did here. We can see they already know that I've terminated my employment, or I've kind of saying I'm separating, so that's the form. So they're saying, you have terminated with the Acme Corporation. They know who I was working with already, and I can basically come in and say, why is it? I can say, well, I'm retiring. I can start saying, do I want a full or partial distribution? And here I'm going to say I'm going to do a partial. And then it's going to verify. It knows how old I am, but it needs me to verify for legal reasons. I verify that I am and move on to the next piece. Right now we're starting to see, some of the things that Finance Corp is putting into the form to drive what they want us to do, right? So they're telling us about their offers over here, their Roth IRA, and they're basically saying, hey, would you like to just put those directly into the Finance Corp IRA, right? So it's going to make that very seamless and easy for us to do that rollover that way. In this case, I want to do, a portion payable to me. I want to take some money out, so I'll choose that. Now you'll notice here we had some dynamic activity. So it's wanting to know, well, how much are you wanting to take out? And then it's also giving me the single-click distribution to Finance Corp IRA, right? So trying to make it easy for me to do it. So I could basically take that option and go directly into signing it to say that's what I want to do. But again, so that's Finance Corp's way of driving the behavior they want. But I do want to do a partial portion payable to me. I'm going to come in, we can see, again, integration capability, so I can see the total amount that's in there. I can say I want to take out 50,000, and that's going to leave 70,000, and then where do I want to have that roll over to, into different options. Again, I could do a different rollover, but, Finance Corp is giving me the option to put it into their product. In this case, I'm going to choose that, move on over. And now it's giving me some additional information. Again, it's still giving me another bit of information and tax to say, look, if you want to avoid some taxes and penalties, consider rolling it over to the Finance Corp IRA. So again, another offer that's going to allow me to change it. In this case, I'm going to say, no, I want to take the money, and I'm going to put 1,000 additional federal tax dollars to be withheld. It knows what state I'm in. I can already see it's got enough withholdings for the state. So I move on through the application. And now it's asking me a couple more questions of, how do we want to send the money? So I can see, well, it's coming to regular mail. I don't want to do that. I can transfer it to my bank account. And again, this is where some of the intelligence is built in. If I choose that option, it's going to request a copy of the check be attached and a fee. Or I can say I want to express delivery, so I want to do a FedEx delivery to me, which is a $25 fee. So it tells me I've got that, and I'm going to pay that via credit card, so I'm going to be asked for that later. Again, we wouldn't want to put credit card information into the form. That would be a wrong spot to put it. Then as I move through the application, it's now taken to me, and again, being very personalized and saying, look, hey, we also have the ability, and again, another chance for them to upsell. Here's your financial advisor, your personal finance advisor, and, picture of him, and then an option for me to set up a time, with them. So I could choose a couple of different times, add that directly to my calendar. I could get Tony's contact information here if I want to call him directly, or I could choose not now, I don't want to do that, or a particular time. So in this case, I'll say, well, yeah, I'll talk to him on Tuesday, and we'll move on through. And now I'm at the point where I could sign and submit it, but I really need to get executive approval on this. I need to make sure my wife is okay with what I'm doing here. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. So I'm not submitting it back to Finance Corp. It's still just in the portal. It's still just for me, and now I can see that I've saved that piece out. So what we're going to do now is actually go, talk to my wife and see if she's okay with what I'm planning to do here with my retirement money. So she's out by the pool. So I'm going to open up my iPad, go directly. This is just an iPad using Safari, so I'm just using the browser. This isn't the offline capability, but it's going to allow me to come in and go to the task list, and I'll be able to see the item. Let me log in real quick. My keyboard's not connected, so I'm going to have to use, maybe it is connected now. Yeah, now it's back. So I'm going to log in to the portal. Now we can see, again, really clear. Let me see if I can focus this just a little bit better. We can see right in the middle the task list, which is something I've saved, and we can see the orange one up there. And that's indicating to me, that that's where my item is. Now I've got email with links in there as well, but in this case I know exactly where I'm going to go. I take it, go out and say, let's, open the form, with my wife there to go through it. Now, one of the things, we'll note here, and part of the reason I wanted to show this is on this particular device, we see the same form, but it's very much tailored for the device that we're on, right? So now we see, the drop downs are actually going to be, the controls that are built into the iPad. If this is Android, we'd see controls pretty similar, but they are a little bit different. Again, Smart Form Manager has sniffed the fact that I'm accessing this form on an iPad and giving me the best experience for that, right? So I go and talk to my wife, and she says, hey, actually we want to do 60,000. She wants a new ring, so we say, okay, that's good. Everything else we like about it. Still want it back to us. Still talk to Troy. And now I could even save and submit here, or I could, I'll just go ahead and save it, and then we'll go back to our website here. Probably a little easier to see. So if we come back in, what we'll see on this thing again is the one task list, but it's going to be a little farther along on our piece. And now we could basically come in and say, let's go ahead and finish the transaction. Maybe I come back a day later after meeting with my wife, and now I can pull it back up, and all my information again is going to be there. The 60,000 is there. I'm going to go through and just go ahead and sign this particular piece. So now we get to the submission point, and in this piece we do different types of digital signatures, but in this piece I'm going to actually do a sign on the device just with my stylus. So I could sign on the iPad, sign on the glass, or sign here. We also do click-through e-signatures. We do digital signatures, and then we also provide the capability. Sometimes you're going to have to download a document, apply a wet signature. We may even have documents that need to be notarized. Smart Form Manager facilitates all those signature capabilities, and this is just one type. So I've got that in place. I go ahead and hit Submit Now, and that basically, submits the information back in, but Smart Form Manager has kind of, it's my guiding light in this transaction. It's coming in and said, oh, hey, we also need a copy of your driver's license as an attachment before we can make this go. And it's given me a couple of options here. One, I can go ahead and attach the file if I've got it, or I can say, look, I'll bring that into the office, right, and get it scanned there or mail it in. So in this case, I'm going to electronically attach it. I can also see that it's given me, a description of what it is, and it's only going to let me put two different file types in there, a PDF or a JPEG, right? And it can also drive, how big it can be and things like that. So I've got my scan license there. I attach it, and then again, Smart Form Manager is kind of guiding this transaction. It says, do you have any other attachments you want to do? Are you done here? Do you want to save? In this case, we'll say, no, we're going to go ahead and say we're done with this piece. And now it looks and says, okay, well, we also have the need for the $25 fee. And so we've got the whole transaction integrated to a payment gateway. So now I'm doing what I should be with my credit card information, not storing it in a form, but actually interacting with the payment gateway. So here I'll say I'm going to pay with my Visa card. Got this tied to a dummy one. Make payment. Oh, didn't put the year in, so got kicked back, so add the year. And now we've kind of gone through the transaction. And now me as a user is presented with a confirmation page. I know for a fact that this has gone through to Finance Corp. They've got it. I see my receipt number. And from here, it's letting me view it online. I can see what my submission history is, or I can actually even save a PDF directly right here. So I can click that. Let's say let's go ahead and download our PDF. And what this is really doing, if you remember when we talked about that Composer piece, it's out of that one single design. Not only did we create that nice interactive wizard-style form to walk through, but it also created a document or record form, right? Intelligence built in, to hide the images we don't want to show, and then basically all the way down to, here's my signature at the bottom that I applied to the document. So now this is ready to go into my imaging systems or my document record system, as well as we talked about, having it there for me as a customer to be able to go to my history and say, well, what happened with this last one I did? Well, I can see it. I can get the receipt at any time. So if I come back a day later, a month later, I can always get a copy of that for my records. And you'll notice here in the green, this is actually processing status that comes from the back-end workflow that we've delivered this process to, right? So, there's obviously a back-end to what we're doing from our transaction, right? So there's what's going on at Finance Corporation, and so this is that visual cue to me to actually see what the processing status is. So it lets me know it's received. If it was some of these other ones, I can see that they're actually approved. If it's a problem, I'll see whatever message they want to be able to put back to me. It keeps me in the loop and possibly keeping me from calling to ask what's going on as well, right? So with that, let's actually kind of look at what the back end might be for Finance Corporation. So we're going to kind of change our hats from the customer, and let's go look at it, what it might be from the user's capability. So one of the things we talked about was the workflow, right, and that status that we saw here. So there's a workflow associated with it. This is a BPM tool that we're using to route work to. I've logged in, and one of the things I'll see here is a to-do. I've got an item that's queued up for me. It's waiting for a review decision. And if I open this up, what we're going to see is basically the form that we created. It's been sent to the person for review or for processing, whatever this may be. And again, the whole XML payload is going to be there. The form is going to be there. And then also the attachments. Remember, we attached a driver's license here. So if we go over to the attachments, right here in there, we could say, well, let's look and make sure that that looks okay. And in fact, we'll see, my Jake Elwood blue driver's license there. So I've got my copy as I process that. I go back to the form. If there's areas I could change in the form, I could be doing that. But in this case, it's just asking me to approve or decline. So we'll go ahead and approve it. And so we can kind of get a glimpse as to data real quickly, real time, being passed into whatever the business process is, whatever alerts, routing it to the right people. And then if we, circle back over to, our, end user, we can actually see that it's approved as well, right? So they're going to get notifications via email if that's what the process is set up to be. But right there in their portal, they get the real-time statuses as well. So it's connecting the two pieces and making it very easy and seamless. So another aspect of the sorry for bouncing around there. Another aspect of the back end for Finance Corp is going to be around the management. Remember, I talked about Smart Form Manager, and so this is going to be more of the operations perspective or the forms management perspective, and even to some aspect developer where you're doing integration, because you can basically deliver these things to anything you want and set that up. But one of the things I might want to be able to do is actually see what's going on from a transaction base, right? Timed out. So let me re-authenticate. And basically we can see, here's every transaction that's going through the system. We can see, what's going on with it, delivery completed, what the process ID was. If we drill in, we'll kind of start seeing the breadth of what we're collecting here, everything that's going on, and what template they were using, the time, date, transaction status, what attachments, were there payments, data, history, so everything that you're going to need to be able to manage those transactions, whether they're coming from customers out on your website or your employees in your enterprise or field workers out in the field, it's going to be able to manage those and deliver that in and give you the intelligence that you're going to need for that, right? Okay, so that's kind of the 401k redistribution use case. Now let's go look at the second use case that we want to look at here. We'll kind of tee this one up. So this one is basically an insurance company here in the U.S. that had really done a lot of effort to drive new marketing efforts and get people interested in the company and what's going on, and it was really driving a lot of traffic to the website. But what they really weren't seeing a lot of times was that being generated into online quotes, right? And so they were looking at ways that they could take, take people that are coming to their site based on ads that they're doing and generate that into action, right? And at the same time, how do they reduce cost, from processing as well, right? Get it off of paper and PDF, and grow to attract new customers, right? So that's kind of the piece. And again, the solution is they put Smart Form Factory in place, and that in this case, we're going to look at two things. One, how they embedded it into the website. That's kind of a unique aspect to it. But also, we'll look at it just in traditional sense as well, right? If we go into our portal, and if we were to search for, homeowners insurance, so again, I put this into our Finance Corp portal. So if we search for, not that, but insurance, we'll see all the insurance applications that are online. And if we open one up here, same kind of concept, the landing page, and then it can go to the form. Now here you see more of a traditional type of application. So all the things that are going to happen in the application that I'm going to go, so this is me, I know exactly what I want as a customer. I want to get homeowners insurance from you, Finance Corp. So I go directly into the application. It's all business. It's straight down to the piece to walk me into what I want. And so they had, a little bit of luck there, but what they were having, or what they wanted to be able to do, was also take that and put that out on the front page, and let's start getting people in, get all these people that they're driving their website to engage, right? So here what you can see is basically just a basic HTML page, a web page, but envision this as Finance Corp's, customer-facing website page, right? And so what I've got here is the ability to show what this would look like and embed a form in there. So I'm going to click Embed Form. And what this is going to do is basically, as I'm browsing through the website, maybe I clicked on, a homeowner's insurance link, what we can see is directly inside the page, and again, you can build that application to look like whatever you want inside a Composer. It's going to meld directly in there, but now everything from where it says homeowners insurance quote down to this next button, that's all driven from our data collection application right out of Composer, managed by Smart Form Manager, embedded directly into the website. I even showed you down here on the bottom, here's a little bit of code that you would need to be able to put that into an existing page.
So Jeff, I just want to mention here that these two different layouts we were showing, this one and the previous one, where we showed the wizard layout, those are just controlled by templates in the development tool. So you just select a template, saying the design gets rendered either as this layout or as the layout we saw earlier.
Yeah, that's correct. So again, it's making it simple, but we're allowing a lot of different abilities for the organization to deploy it in different ways, right? And so here, just like Rod said, this is all the same information. It's all the same stuff. It's just being driven by a template here for the website with additional get started now, draw my eye to it, get me going into the application. So I could basically come in, we'll see all the controls that we would want to see. So I'll say, okay, let's go ahead and start putting this in place. I was born yesterday. So we'll move through. Now, one of the other things you'll notice is I'm moving through the application. If I just start moving, all the best practices that are built into a smart form are there, right? So the form builder, the guy who's closest to that business, is driving what the business rules need to be, what's required, what should be hidden and shown, and things like that. And so as I move through, I get a best practices of what's there. If I go to the first issue, it'll move my cursor directly to the spot. So it's got all the intelligence to drive exactly where I need to be. So we'll put in, work through this guy. Now, some of the other things that we're doing here is it's going to ask some base questions up front that are going to let me tie directly, again, with the integration directly to my ratings engine to basically give them that quick price, that indicative price, to see if they want to go through. Then we can lift all this information into that application and let them finish, the actual, full application. There may be a few other fields that we didn't expose on the website. But again, we'll see all the intelligence that we, have into the form of, if I say this is a replaced roof, well, then when was it replaced? But if I say it's original, well, then I don't need to ask that. Same kind of pieces like that. So all the intelligence is going to be built into the form. Same if I say this is my primary residence, then I don't have any additional questions. But if I come in and actually say, well, this is my secondary, well, now dynamically it says how often are you there and how many people are in there, right? So this is my primary. Is there a home-based business? I can say yes, and so now I get a whole new section that basically says, well, okay, what kind of home business do you run? And we can say we do a child care, we do, other. I'd have to describe it. Same thing with, any kind of question where we're going to need our underwriters or our decision-making process to know more information, gather that information so it can be disseminated and looked at. So all the intelligence, but what we're presenting to the customer looks seamless, it looks easy, simple, and it's engaging for them to start interacting with these data collection applications, right? And then, all the dynamic capabilities, and it doesn't, this is across any composer thing, but to have, where I'm going to say, well, I've got, computer and electronics and FERS that I want to add, additional coverages for, I could put that in. I could say, well, let's take that one off. All those kind of capabilities, those are all easily added by the smartphone composer. Developer inside the smart composer, so that the person who's actually doing that form, no coding to put that in, there's a wizard that builds that, all that kind of interaction for you. And it takes you all the way through, submit, and then even, we give all the capabilities inside of that website to give that same kind of behavior. And again, you could brand this to look like whatever your website looks like, but here's the confirmation. Hey, I got that. So now we're telling them, hey, we did receive that. Would you like a copy of it for your records? Here's the transaction. So I want to be calling you. It's going to kick off that workflow. All those kind of things are going to happen, right? So it's just another way that form could be used. And again, this form could be mobile as well, right? So it'll fine-tune for the mobile. That's going to be across the board with anything we do with the application. Okay. So I think let's go back over to our slides, and what we'll do is kind of look at a summary here. So the solutions that we delivered, across those, we saw that it was integrated into the existing infrastructure, and that's really a couple of different things there. One, we saw how we deployed it to websites or the portal, but we also saw where we were pre-populating data, so we're, knows who we're logged in as. We went and got other back-end data to put into our form. The dynamic form capability on both sides, we saw the form being tailored to us and driving what the organization or what the business wants to do, and they can make those changes very quickly. So they can go in and make these changes and redeploy them out to the data collection applications, whether they're website or applications in the field, very quickly, right? And we saw multi-channel. They can do it via, web, phone, tablets, however they want to consume these. We saw the personalized experience, and then how we drove desired customer behavior. And if we look at the outcomes, like, we've got the 22 million, the reduced cost there. That was just based on the call center reduction numbers, right? That's just the base number. They know how much that costs them every time someone picks up the phone to call. So if we reduce those down, we could be up to 22 million. But that's not taking into consideration the every time that we put one of those new buttons in there and say, hey, why don't you roll it into one of our IRAs, that saves them money and makes us money every time, right? And so that's not even counting into all of those type deals. And then we see better web conversion rates, and then more effective cross-selling and higher customer satisfaction rating. Because basically, as Rod alluded to in the beginning, is, people want to be able to interact with these type of devices and these type of different options. They don't want to have to pick up the phone all the time. They don't want to have to download a PDF and fill it out and do things like that. They want to have that. So that's kind of the results from those case studies. And then the last thing I want to show before I turn it back over to you, Rod, is just kind of over on the Smartphone Manager piece. I wanted to show, how the organization, we talked a little bit about the transactions, but we also wanted to show how the organization can measure and monitor some of that. So again, I talked about how we're managing all the transactions that come in there, but you've got all kinds of measurements that are going with it. So I, as finance corporation, could come in and look at my, maybe I want to come in and look at that homeowner's insurance requests and start seeing what my abandonment rate is, right? So now I can see how many times we got requested, how many times it actually got submitted, and that's going to let me start, honing that whole process. Maybe I want to change the form again and again. I've got the tool sets to do that very quickly to respond to what I'm seeing in my analytics, right? So it really starts building that agile development environment that Rod was talking about before, that you need to have this to succeed in the customer self-service space, right? And so there's all kinds of things around health of the system, where people are coming from. Anything you're going to need to know is managed there in the platform and presented to the organization.
Yeah,
so with that, Rod, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, I was just going to say that having the analytics built into the platform, just gives you incredible agility, the ability to test, and so that you can, continuously improve these user experiences and optimize them at very quickly and at very low cost. Okay, so thanks, Jeff. That was terrific. We saw two great demos. And the point I want to emphasize here is, we saw a data collection application embedded into a self-service portal. We saw that same data collection application delivered as an optimized application on an iPad tablet. We then saw a data capture application embedded into a website. And all those changes are all just driven off of either the templates and style sheets embedded in the development tool, or in the intelligence of SmartForm Manager, which is our transaction hub, which is aware of the devices and ensures that it's going to deliver either an optimized desktop experience, mouse-based desktop experience to a desktop device, or an optimized touch-based experience to a tablet or to a smartphone. It takes care of all that stuff for you. So there's a couple things and next steps. Today we introduced you to the platform and the power of the platform, and if you want to learn how we can help you, quickly move to the online channel, if you're not in the retail or e-commerce industry and you have these sort of complex, high-impact transactions that you want to put online for your customers, contact us and we'll give you one of our online self-service assessments. No cost to you. We'll do an assessment. We'll explain your options and various approaches that are available to you. It gives you a great idea of what's involved in the transition, both what the potential cost and time would be, as well as what the savings will be for you. It's a great way to get a set of deliverables to educate your organization, to help them build the business case to move forward. And if that's of interest to you, you can email Jeff Kalicki at avoca.com, Jay Kalicki, or I've put my email a couple times into the chat box. That's rhodgman at avoca.com. Or if you leave the session and you forget either of those, if you send it to info@avoca.com, we'll get it. Don't worry about it, and we'll get back to you right away. So that's one thing you can do if you want to learn more about the platform and see how its applicability in your environment. And the next thing is this a three-step webinar series. The next one is October 30th. I've got the URL up there, but it's just our events page. If you go to our events page on our website, you'll find this. And this next one looks at how we can use tablets and these smart, intelligent data capture applications to really completely and fundamentally redesign how field sales and field service personnel can work and be more effective and efficient and reduce costs in the fields. And we've got two great case studies on this one. One is Pharmaceutical Salesforce. This organization is in the process of deploying iPads to their sales force so that they can do drug adverse reaction reports directly in the field and submit those electronically and immediately back into the corporate headquarters. And we're going to look at a world-class beverage distributor and how they use smartphone data capture applications and iPads to be able to, after a sales call, immediately begin the process of setting up a new distributor. And they're fascinating ways of really looking how people are seeing how the combination of these two technologies together are going to make their field operations much more effective and much more powerful. So that's available to you as well. And then we'd like to thank you for taking the time today to attend this webinar. We hope it was a good learning experience for you and that it was worthwhile. You got something out of this time. And we hope to see you at our next webinar. Thank you very much. And this recording will be available on our website in 24 hours. Thanks.